Good morning. It's Frank Crowley. I need to reintroduce myself and to reintroduce the show because I've been Rip Van Winkle for 5 months with my neighbors up in Safe Harbor, live in Westbrook. So happy to be back. I can't express the relief it is to come back and tape a show with the perfect guest for it. Bruce, James, Francisco, welcome.
Frank, what's up?
Yeah.
Oh, wait, social bumping.
We took our masks off because we are 4 feet and 10 inches away, as Bruce
5 feet,
said.
10 inches.
5 feet, 10 inches. Thank you, Bruce. And we go back quite a way. I see him writing in the cafes and the coffee shops along the shoreline, where he comes from and where he spends a lot of his time. So he's one of us Nine-Town folks. This is Poetry of Immigrants. But since we're in a transition into a new iteration, please allow me to change the name to The Art of Poetry. In other words, we've done 37 shows about poetry of immigrants, current, living, past, just the whole genre of immigrant poetry has come to life. So now we're going to look at the art of poetry as a process, as a technique, as a way to show the full depth of artistic creativity, and most importantly, the creative imagination of mankind. Speaking of that, I have to say, Bruce at the other end of the counter writing away was so engaged in what he was doing and thinking that I thought to myself, gee, I'd just like to say hi to this guy as he walks by, and because I'm writing my head off with journals. And fellow writers tend to congregate. So over the years, there's Bruce, there's Bruce. A lot of cafes, but then at the post office, and then Here he is. Thank you for coming.
It's
I
a pleasure to
can't
be
thank
here.
you enough. I mean, it's just like a wake up.
It was a pretty short notice, but interesting to get a call from you. And then also hear you inspired.
Totally. And this is what inspired me at that post office 6 months ago.
Yeah.
Ran into each other, just chatted by the car. It was just pre-COVID. And he said, oh, this is my latest book. How wonderful is that? Because I read his first book. And that goes way back. But that first book is what hooked me, about transitions and transformations. Not only that, but transcendence. And we'll leave the fourth leg of the stool to the end of the show. We'll see what we come up with for the fourth T. So if you're paying attention, prepared to be awakened from your long sleep of COVID isolation and the pain that went with that and the suffering. Visionary Mind Power, Book 1. This is the first of a series. Thinking beyond habitual thinking. Not to go on, but 2 days ago, in that sacred hour of the morning reverie, whoa! Oh, I need to wake up. I need to wake up now, and I needed something to wake me up. And there it was, of course, because he gave it to me 6 months ago. It's on the bookshelf. And synchronicity came down. And then yesterday, I got into it, really. And then this morning, magic happened on the back porch. That red cardinal. Oh, he's beautiful. He's scarlet red. Bam, bam. I'm back. I'm back after 5 months. And I'm back for poetry with Bruce. And if you trust the universe and its synchronicity and the power of love and healing and grace, you'll make it through. Thanks, Bruce, for helping me make it through. Oh, God.
I'm just a messenger. Something came through me.
Isn't that great? You said channeling in here, and I got so excited with that word.
I always wonder what makes me write a book.
What does?
Because I never thought of myself as a writer, but I think I'm on my 4th book now.
Yeah. What inspires you to write?
To express. When you know the difference, what else is there to do except share it?
That's right. Boy. Whoa, that's your own quote.
Exactly.
Yeah, but it sounds so Buddha, Lao Tzu, Rumi. Are you steeped in these guys? Who are your mentors?
My mentors, I have to say, not too many people. Okay. My journey, people always say, what got you into hypnosis? What got you into meditation? And I have to say, when I was a kid, about 14 years old, I heard the statement that man only uses 5% of his mind potential.
Wow.
Now, as a little kid, I used to go, well, why are we only using 5%? It just miffed me.
As a kid,
and I used to think, well, if I got to 10%, it'd be better than most of my friends. So
you're right about that.
And I go, what would it be like to have 100% of your mind potential, or just have a conversation with someone that used 100% of their mind potential? All I could think of was unlimited possibilities.
Unlimited.
And at a young age, I used to understand what it meant if something was bothering me. Mm-hmm. It was a crazy thing. I just began to realize I would focus on anything I could find that looked like the letter A. It could have been anything, but that's what I did. And I kept my focus on one thing. And if I kept looking at it, whatever anxiety I had would kind of dissolve away. Next thing you know, I'm in the moment.
Yeah.
And I didn't understand it, but I was really meditating.
You were.
I ran into a family about 45 years ago. Mm-hmm. They took me in. They were an American family from India. And they kind of took me in. They were like free-spirited people. It was really interesting out in California. Mm-hmm. And they showed me some things about my mind that changed me forever.
Wow.
So I began teaching a meditation technique in the early 90s.
The wisdom of the East comes to you in California.
Interesting. There's a long story about how I met these people. I met a daughter, and it was just a friendship. And her whole reason of meeting me was to meet the mother, which eventually was the reason to meet the father. So either way, I began teaching a meditation technique early 90s. And then I realized that the meditation, most people were hypnotized. They didn't call it that. They didn't look at it that way.
They didn't call it that.
And so I began teaching a meditation technique that I kind of derived. I had a little cassette. I used to dub these little cassettes back then, And then I realized I got really involved with the hypnosis. So I got certified as a hypnotherapist.
Wow.
And I did some one-on-one therapy here and there, but I'm a stage guy. And so I remember going out to Las Vegas, and I was studying all the hypnotists, the comedy hypnotists. And I remember I was sitting there on the top of a parking garage in Vegas watching the sunset. I called my wife and I says, I'm going to be a hypnotist and you're going to be my assistant. And she goes, what? And so I came back. It took me a year to put a show together. And I've never really hypnotized people on stage. I never did it. And I was even practicing with little teddy bears, but going through this in my mind. And then I did my first event. And I remember I was putting people, I was doing an induction. That's part of a process, a process of relaxation to help people tap into and connect to a childlike part of themselves. Maybe they forgot.
That's beautiful. So that puts them into a relaxed state.
A relaxed state, and I'll go into that. What's really happening in a minute.
Yeah.
And so I remember looking back. I go, I think they're hypnotized. I didn't know what I was doing, and I relate that to when I was 16 years old. When I was 14, I was interested in flying. I took flying lessons. At 16, I took my FAA written exam. At 16, I was able to solo. Before I drove a car, my mother drove me out to the airport. And my instructor got in a plane, we flew, he got out, and actually, before I could drive a car, I was flying an airplane by myself.
This guy should have been born with wings, not wheels. Yeah. Hold that thought.
But just in the same sense
Uh-huh.
of my first show, when I was flying, sure, I knew how to fly a plane, but I didn't know what I was doing. So when I first hypnotized people, I knew what to do, but I didn't understand it. Now I've been flying, for 45 years, and now I have insight. And after a while, you get intuitive about what you start to do.
Oh, yeah.
And the way I look at it now is most of us are asleep. And we don't look at it that way. And then I realized that somehow inside, I hypnotize thousands of people around the country, and I realize I'm waking people up. Because in order for me to get somebody in a trance, I have to, through a process of relaxation, guide them past their ego. And then when I wake them up, I've hypnotized thousands of people, and I see this over and over and over and over again. You'd have to appreciate that. I begin to see that they have zero anxiety. They're more connected to their core self. Like I remember New Year's Eve one night, I was interviewing somebody. Go, so after the show, I interview everyone. How do you feel? And she'll look at me and she'll go, my depression's gone.
Wow.
Can I just give you a hug? Like, what do you say to that?
After a show.
Right, we're in front of 100 people or 200 people, whatever it was.
I mean, think about that.
So, but the process made me realize what was happening.
Oh, yeah.
So people go, I can't be hypnotized. Well, you're already hypnotized.
Yeah.
Let me help you get past that so you can reconnect to the childlike person that you was always there, that you kind of forgot about as you got caught up in this crazy, confusing world.
Or suppressed, as Alice Miller says. And then the repression takes over.
So people, when you go up to somebody, go, hey, how you doing today? And they go, same old, same old.
Yeah.
Really?
Really?
Don't you feel the pain in that? Because the repetition of the same, the 65,000 thoughts a day becoming 45,000 thoughts a day, becoming 40, it puts you in a box.
So back
and the
to
pain
that.
you feel is that you're not expressing yourself. You're not creatively expressing yourself like a childlike freedom. We're free, creative, childlike creatures that thrive off that process. But when we get dumbed down through habitual thinking, that's why my book's titled Thinking Beyond Habitual Thinking. You begin to tap in to that childlike expression that makes you feel alive.
But the catalyst, as you said so well and expressed so well, was pain.
When you say pain, what's interesting is, you mentioned the 3-book series, Thinking Beyond Habitual Thinking, book 1. Book 2 is going to be called The Power of Pain and Escaping the Rabbit Hole.
Oh, that's a perfect...
And the premise of that is, if I touch a stove, I go, take your hand away. Because you have something in your body that gives you a signal to take your hand away so you don't destroy your body. It's a self-protecting mechanism. But so as with thoughts, when you have a painful thought, if you keep on, if you don't understand your mind, and that's what I teach in the meditation.
This is in part 4.
Absolutely.
So beautifully expressed, so clearly expressed.
Right, but so you understand what it means to follow your heart, not your pain.
Yeah.
And when you subconsciously can recognize, you change the way I look at this. And when you begin to understand how to shift your perception, everything will change. Like right now, what do you see?
5 fingers?
I didn't ask you to look at my hand. The point is we get so hypnotized by all of our perceived problems, we forget to see everything else.
Oh, that's so true. So back to the bird.
Okay, go.
Red cardinal. The bird. This morning. Your magic.
Oh, your bird, okay.
Your magic.
Yes.
My bird, your magic. So that's a talisman, a totem, a red cardinal for me my whole life, right?
Yes.
Singing, whether it's winter or summer. Oh my God, I'm not sleeping 2 hours afternoon anymore for the last 5 months. That's a depression. That's an isolation. I'm waking up through this book 2 days ago. Oh my God, yes. This morning that cardinal shows up. So in my past, whenever I felt the pain and the anger all the way from childhood up to the present moment and been trapped in that loop, as you described so well, I need something to come in. Synchronicity love from the universe. The red cardinal represents that. Singing, he's singing. Oh, we're going to do a show Thursday. How good is that?
So a little bit of what you're saying, I said, look at my hand, you focus on your hand, but the truth is, the cardinal showed up, or did you wake up to the cardinal?
I woke up to the cardinal.
Yeah.
I woke up after 5 months.
Because even though it was sitting in somewhere, and you begin
He's been there every day, Bruce.
Exactly.
Every day.
Exactly.
Singing his beautiful song.
And when you get connected to that,
Yeah.
and you wake up,
Thanks.
do you feel alive? And I could go on and on about a lot of things.
And I could cry. It's been so isolating.
I'm so glad. Well, people feel like, what's the pain going on right now?
Yeah.
And what happened is, we're creatures of habit.
Yeah.
Everything we do is a habit that we picked up. Before we had any habits, let's look at it this way. We were just simply little children.
Wasn't it wonderful?
Yes.
Wasn't it magical?
It was.
And wasn't it a creative time? I mean, we're either in the sandbox or we're running on the beach. I see them yesterday.
Yeah.
You saw them Wednesday. You were out paddling.
Yeah, no, they're beautiful.
Tuesday, sorry. You were out paddling Tuesday.
When you see a child connected.
Oh, the sandcastles, Bruce. The mud drip technique. The magic of the creativity of a child. Every day on display. Oh, Wednesday I woke up. It's like, oh, I remember doing that myself.
And when you feel connected,
Oh.
you feel alive.
Fully.
You feel joy.
Oh, fully, you know.
And you're connected to the power that comes along with that.
So, time for a poem, and let's wake up
Okay.
my neighbors,
Okay.
because they'll be watching.
Okay.
They asked me yesterday, when's a new show coming?
Did they really?
Yes, my whole Safe Harbor neighbor group. Oh.
Safe Harbor.
I'll find the poem for the second.
Oh.
It's John O'Donohue. Ever heard of him?
No, but I could recite a poem if you want.
Oh, I would.
In the last page of the other book you read,
Uh-huh.
I called it Life. Okay, here it goes. Like a journey with no waking, as if its only purpose were to create time, looking and searching for answers, yet only finding clues bringing one closer to what one should and should not do, yet continually sidetracked and left alone in what you realize is truth. And one day hoping to master the art of understanding so others may realize love, the challenge to deception, to bring forth in another that which lack of love could never have known, to awaken to deception and how love, hate, and anger was the deceiver's food, to awaken to how deceived and misinformed we are, now realizing this now free. But while this so short and so, yet so real to our senses, the mystery of taste, touch, sight, smell, and sound, without which nothing would seem to be.
What a metaphor. The food of the deceiver. See? What you have as a gift is also the power of poetic metaphor and poetic language, because it's so hard to capture all these abstractions in a concrete way. But as I said earlier before we started filming, you have a way of doing that in one quote, your own quotes, which brings the abstraction down to actually bread and butter, to something you can almost
Well,
feel.
the metaphors that people can relate to.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, that's important.
Let me go back and just give a further introduction of who you are.
Okay.
I loved it.
All right.
We also have Arizona in common, you know,
Oh, Arizona. Yes.
not only Bisbee. But what struck me is beyond the certified hypnotherapist, which I find fascinating, within one of his real estate developments, he built a very interesting home.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Construction guy. He's written 2 previous books, The Inner Experience and Warning, dangerous ingredients.
Warning, dangerous.
I got that. Did I pause enough? And then thinking beyond habitual thinking is the first in the series of Awaken Your Visionary Mind Power. When he has time to himself, Bruce loves keeping fit and being active outdoors. Mm-hmm. He enjoys surfing, skiing, CrossFit, biking, and trail running. He owns his own plane. We heard that. Pilot at 16? Wow! Bruce seems to have a mission to make a difference to the world and be an inspiration to others. Where does that come from? Sure, you've got the full power of creative imagination, no question. And then going back to that first experience of how do I control my thoughts? You know, that's fascinating to me. Like, you were able to focus on something that allowed you to take control.
Well, there's two realities going on in front of every one of us.
Okay.
The truth of reality
Yeah.
and our perception of it.
Yeah.
Let me give you a little example that maybe the viewers can appreciate if you just go along with this just for a moment.
You got it.
Okay, put your hand out. And just for a moment, I want you to listen to everything you hear. Just listen. Some background noises in the studio. You hear maybe the movement, you hear my voice, and be aware of the hand you have extended. Don't think about it. Just notice the blood flowing through your fingers. And listen to the sounds. Maybe you'll hear the silence. And every time you catch your mind in a thought, catch it. Bring your attention back to your hand again. Just do this for a moment. Just keep doing it. And if your mind's in a thought, your hand's not tingling, you're in a thought. Bring your attention back to your hand again. Now, is your hand tingling just a little? So you can't be aware of your hand and hear all the sounds and be in a thought at the same time.
Yeah, and also my hand is relaxing.
You're relaxing, but you're relaxing. Your mind's relaxing. You're in the moment. See, once you're in a thought, none of that's happening because you're in a thought. So when you deal with people, you have to realize you're not dealing with that person, but you're dealing with what's gotten inside of them. And if you react to that, that gets in you. I do a bullying concept I talk about with schools. The bully's like the hypnotist.
Yeah.
He's not thinking of it that way, but he's learning to feed off the emotional reaction from his victim. Now, that's why this kid's got his own personal hell going on. But if I could teach this bullied kid what it means to not react, then the bully will come over, let's say do his normal little stimulus, and the bully looks over and he goes, "Are you still doing that?" And it rolls off you like water off a duck's back. Now the bully may try harder, or the bully may go, "Yeah, you're right. Hey, do you want to shoot some basketball after school today?" So by not reacting to the hell in somebody, you're creating the possibility of a new relationship. In a sense, you're becoming a source of love. That's a little bit of where I'm going with this.
That's a lot.
That's a lot.
That's a lot.
So if you can understand that, like a lot of times people go, "I'm a pilot," and they go, "I'm a pilot," and a lot of times people go, "Oh, it's so dangerous." And I go, "Driving on Interstate 95 is dangerous, especially through New Haven at rush hour." You know?
Walking the streets.
And so as a pilot, you're right, but as a pilot we make these decisions to fly or don't fly. And sometimes we got to drive. So I got to drive 7 hours instead of an hour and a half flight. But along the way, one day when I had to make the decision to drive, I counted about 8 possible major catastrophes, accidents that I avoided. So I asked people, how many people here drive? You're not drivers. You're accident avoiders. That's what safe drivers do. And the more aware you are, the more you can just navigate around it. And just otherwise, you may become subject to distracted drivers that have an accident. So when you're dealing with people, you're not dealing with that person, but you're dealing with what's gotten inside of them. So if someone comes in a little angry, if you react to them, you're not enjoying the day anymore. They just hypnotized you. And when you learn to how not to react, that's the key. You just listen, and you smile, and you come from that, you stay connected. People always ask me, "I have so much anxiety, and I go, "Have you ever thought about what that anxiety really is?" And I use the example of computers back in the 80s. We had computers, data processing, word entry, whatever it was.
Clunky.
It did its job.
Big, clunky.
But then we started networking it to other computers, and then we connected it to the internet. And now we got a new problem. One day you notice your computer's not right, and you go, I got a virus. How'd that get in there? It snuck in. But that's why you meditate. You're learning to activate the virus software for your mind.
Whoa.
So every time something suspicious, you have virus software. It goes down there, grabs something and got in, contains it, says, hey, you want this in your mind, your computer? You get rid of it. And then it puts a firewall up. Something suspicious tries again, it goes ding, 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 ding. It's like being mindful in an instant. Because do you want this in your mind? And you go, no. And that's the same thing when you're dealing with people. So when you learn the principles that I kind of help reveal to people, people might then learn how to walk through their experiences rather than their experiences walking through you, taking a little bit of you. The anxiety is an indication you got a virus.
And the hell within, confronting the hell within the next person, which is, how do we as seniors who have been trapped for 5 months avoid the hell on the box, the TV, that's coming in politically? And hold that thought, because we're going to take a break.
I'm listening.
And recover, because it's the hell coming from the box meeting the hell of the repressed, suppressed, whatever, in the now awakening people. And it's just electrifying in a bad way. So we'll wrap for 30 minutes, and now we'll take a 3-minute break, and you'll love the personal announcements. We'll be back.
COVID-19 has changed the lives of millions of citizens across the world. Local, state, and federal government officials have been working tirelessly with the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention.
So doing everything we can to give you confidence that even though you don't know what tomorrow will bring, at least you know that we've got your back going forward, at least for the next 4 months, when hopefully we'll be on the backside of this crisis.
In efforts to slow down the spread of the virus, here are some tips that you can do to help the fight. Besides washing hands and self-isolating, there are many things that you may come into contact with that could use some disinfecting. These include high-touch areas, such as doorknobs, handles, tables, desks, hardback chairs, light switches, faucets, toilet flushers, towels, bags, and steering wheels. When leaving your home, it is important to take the necessary precautions to avoid getting or spreading COVID-19. At the grocery store, practice 6 feet of social distancing while maneuvering around, and try not to touch anything that you don't need to. Takeout and delivery are a great way to continue to support local business, but be cautious when interacting with employees and other customers. Once home, transfer the food to a plate and discard containers. Wash your hands before eating, and any leftovers should be stored in your own containers. There is a low risk of transmitting COVID-19 from any mail or package you may come into contact with. However, it is always a safe idea to wash your hands after handling them. According to the CDC, you can help prevent the spread of COVID-19 by practicing social distancing, avoiding touching your eyes, nose, and mouth, and by washing hands frequently. We hope this video will help you and your family stay safe and stay healthy. For more information, please visit www.cdc.gov.
Hi, I'm Kelly. It is my job to teach employees the responsible way to sell both tobacco and electronic cigarettes. As of October 1st, 2019, a customer must be at least 21 years old to purchase a tobacco product or an electronic cigarette. The law also says all employees must card anyone who appears to be under the age of 30 years old. The free updated prevention education program will be available on October 1st, 2019 at cttobaccotraining.com.
Community TV, your neighborhood TV.
Publicly funded and a reliable partner for cable companies nationwide, it provides transparent coverage of local and state government, education, and public programming.
A digital town green that can be watched anywhere, anytime, and on any device.
Watch us on today's high-tech distribution methods.
Community TV in Connecticut.
Local,
unfiltered,
reliable, and
yours.
Hi, I'm Frank Crowley. I'm back with my special guest, Bruce James Francisco, and we may do another show and another one. So if you like this, you're going to be on a ride.
Sure, I'm ready for the ride.
I'm glad. I'm opening with A Blessing, which is really a poem. It's fellow John O'Donohue, whom I've admired for years. He died early, 53. Catholic priest, and then a master of mindfulness. I love his book. And out of the book, I'm choosing a poem today for citizenship. He's got one for nurses, for mothers, for children, for all the social roles we play. And they're all poems. He calls them blessings. But the book says a lot, to bless the space between us. So, in a sense, this is blessing the space between Bruce and me right now. That's his book. In these times when anger is turned into anxiety, and someone has stolen the horizons and mountains, our small emperors on parade never expect our indifference to disturb their nakedness. They keep their heads down and their eyes gleam with reflection from aluminum economic ground. The media wraps everything in a cellophane of sound, and the ghost surface of the virtual overlays the breathing earth. The industry of distraction makes us forget that we live in a universe. We have become converts to the religion of stress and its deity of progress, that we may have courage to turn aside from it all. Thank you for blessing the space between us, Bruce, today.
5 feet 11 inches.
Yeah, through your work. We're closing in on 6 feet.
Yeah, that was 6.
And thank you also to Chris Morgan, who's allowed us to come back into a studio that's up and running, and Christy, and our trusty helper and timer and cameraman. What a wonderful gift to open up again. And congrats. Chuck, the head of the board, just wrote a grant and things worked out, and they got a whole upgrade on a lot of expensive equipment. So this place is going to be transformed. So in the 5-month transition,
Yes.
they are transforming this place, and our new shows will be transcendent.
What do you mean by transcendent?
That's what I'd like to get into, but I'd like to get into it through your poem again. Would you recite that poem you recited earlier?
Yeah, if you want me to.
At a slower pace, because it has abstractions in it.
Okay.
It doesn't so much have
We talked about that earlier.
the bird, or it doesn't so much have the muffin. It has abstractions.
Well, let
And
me tell you how I wrote that poem.
Yeah, process is
This
always
was
welcome.
Back in, I used it in the last page of that other book you had read.
Uh-huh.
And what's interesting is I woke up in my old 66 Chevy van up in somewhere in New Hampshire alone.
And what year was that? After 66.
Mid-'80s.
Okay.
And-
Alone in New Hampshire.
And I just started writing. And I wrote it out, I never edited it.
Yeah,
And that was that.
that's great.
And I'm not a poet.
Yeah, because it's pop. And what's pop comes from the deepest.
And I'll share something with you I just wrote recently, but the same thing happened. I was like, wow, where'd that come from? And a lot of times when I write, I'm inspired somehow, and something in me has to come out. But I believe, I'm going into another tangent maybe.
That's all right, but
we're
where
all-
does it come from?
But we all, like I said, how are you doing today? Same old, same old.
Yeah.
We feel the pain because we lost our connection to let our creative intelligence flow through us. We're creative, creating creatures, childlike creatures that thrive
This book
off being connected.
clearly states
My wife and I
that.
just wrote this book. It's about, she has a little skincare line, but more importantly, it's about how to help people reconnect to their radiant spiritual beauty.
Well, we're on topic. Mindfulness. And would you read this first before you repeat that poem?
Okay, deal.
That's a better,
Now, this was just a couple weeks ago. And it's
Really
gonna be-
recent,
yeah,
yeah.
real recent. And I'm not a big Facebook person, but I say if I'm going to post something, it has to be meaningful, inspiring.
yeah.
Otherwise, and I don't get involved with the crazy pissing contests going out there.
Yeah.
I just express myself.
I eat the bagel. Yeah.
But this applies, I think, a lot to what's going on with all these crazy facets of society in conflict with each other right now.
Current events.
And I said, I started with, this caught my attention. They just don't teach history in school anymore. Said a black man with his 8-year-old child I met waiting at a cab pickup area at Block Island Airport. We chatted about many things in a 10-minute wait for a cab. He also was a pilot, needing a ride back to his plane at Block Island Airport. Cab arrived, and it was my party of 4, and he and his boy all decided to share the cab as we packed ourselves together in the space the best we could. I thought to myself, how important it is for any of us humans to learn from our mistakes. I teach and lecture on success and demonstrate the power of the mind. I teach how important it is to focus on the solution and not the problem. How one can never fail if he doesn't give up. And how one can become more aware and notice the opportunity in any situation. My ultimate goal is to teach and reveal how to use the mind to navigate the opportunity in any situation. My ultimate goal is to teach and reveal how to use the mind to navigate the complexities of life, to ultimately learn to live free in what often is an unfree world. Often unfree because of our lack of understanding of how the mind works. For this reason, experiences often become stumbling blocks rather than stepping stones to bridge one over to the experiences to find the paradise they seek in their mind. But with all my successes from real estate ventures as a pilot seeking perfecting the perfect landing and right decisions in various situations, to keeping my body healthy and finding harmony in my relationships, we can only get better at anything via the feedback of learning what doesn't work. We have to learn what we do like by learning what we don't like. But if we don't have the feedback, we often stumble and attract the same problems over and over again.
Oh, that loop. Oh, that loop.
That is what history is. I've always said that real wisdom is learning from others' failures, so we don't need the inevitable mistakes ourselves. We are here in the world to transcend the limiting experiences and struggles to live as free, childlike spirits expressing ourselves. I've learned that we can only get better by learning from our mistakes, but I've always said wisdom is have the insight to learn from others' mistakes so you don't need to make the same mistake yourself. By not learning from historical events and mistakes and successes of past civilizations, how are we to move forward without making the inevitable mistakes humans tend to make? Our excellence as a society will come to fruit only when we can collectively educate ourselves from past historical tragedy and successes and move forward with a quiet wisdom guiding us from the insights learned from our ancestors. But with no history, we become a slave to agenda surrounding us without a foundation to hold us connected to common sense that can only be born from wisdom. We arrived at the airport and walked out to our planes together. We each took off and radioed each other how cool it was to meet each other as we flew over the water into the late afternoon sun to our destinations on the mainland.
Oh, that's a nice wrap. It's bookends. That's good writing.
Yeah.
So a couple of things. Did Black Lives Matter come up?
No, but he didn't have to say it.
Yeah.
He was black. He mattered. We had a nice
Yes.
meeting. He had a beautiful son.
Yeah.
And I think we didn't get into that stuff. It
Didn't
wasn't
need to.
important.
You were living
nor I sensed that did he even care.
Yeah.
But he summed it all up, so we didn't have to talk about all that stuff. He says, they just don't teach, the problem is, they just don't teach history in school anymore. He said that in a way that summed up all the probable things we could have talked about that.
Thank you. That's the real kernel here. That's the nugget of gold.
He had wisdom, and I capture that. And what's interesting, I kept on thinking about that, and there's something that had to come out of me. I had to write that because I think the world needs this right now. And,
desperately.
And you know what? We're walking up to the planes. I walked to his plane first. I want the plane he has.
Really?
Oh, he had a nice plane. He had a 182. It's a little bigger, you know. And his little.
Is this one engine or two?
It's single engine.
Single engine.
But it's a little bigger, a little faster. Can handle more weight and package. And but it's so cute to see his little boy in there, and he was like probably 8 years old. He put his little headsets on. And I go, "You're such a good co-pilot." He was a cute.
Soon to be a pilot.
Yeah, it's great.
Oh, so before you repeat your poem, which is really a good way of encapsulating so much we've been talking about, let's focus on mindfulness. In other words, mindfulness could also be defined as learning from history.
Yes.
And, you know, they just don't teach history anymore. It's such a cry for accumulated wisdom, but it's also from the poets. You know, Vedic poets come along every now and then. A Vedic poet is a visionary or a seer or someone of the caliber of Rumi, 12th century Persia.
Yes.
And so many, and God bless him, John O'Donohue, if there ever is a modern Vedic poet of the quality of the meditational quality of the Persians, he's it. But here we go. We've got the poets. We've got history. What is it about the human condition or the human being? I just wrote a poem. I prefer ants and apes and aardvarks these days to being human. And it was counterintuitive to bring that poem because that's downer. We're not on a downer, we're on an upper. But it's like starting from that, starting from our condition, starting from our 5 months of being asleep and this whole blanket over our heads. Wouldn't that be an opportunity at this moment to reflect, to touch the pain that we've all felt as audience, and to go back into ourselves and say, wait a minute, I think this is an opportunity to get out of the loop, my own personal loop, my social loop, and my societal loop.
This is it. This is a gift.
This is a gift.
If you let it be a gift.
It's a gift.
And like I started saying something earlier, there's so much to say, and I'm sorry that we get distracted.
Show number 2.
Yeah, we'll do it again.
Oh, no, really?
I would love to come back.
Oh, absolutely. Okay. Given.
But as I said, we're creatures of habit. Like I said, we build up all these habits from our parents and our brothers and sisters and the media.
Like the ants.
That help us define who we think we are.
Yeah.
And then we get a job and we do the thing in life, and we become, all of our habits help us define who we feel comfortable with that. But when all of our habits are disrupted, we feel anxiety because we don't have that reinforcement, and all of a sudden you feel empty. And that's the point of reflection, to say, how can a new way begin if an old way doesn't end? This is an opportunity to snap out of that loop.
Say that again.
How can a new way begin if an old way doesn't end? And you catch yourself dwelling over and over again. Well, you get exactly that. You give your attention to that power of pain. You feel the anxiety. Take a step back. Go for a walk. Go away. Do something you haven't done before.
Take a boogie board to the water.
Do something. I did that with my wife the other day. She was feeling a little anxiety.
Yeah.
And I stopped. I said, and that's something we never did together. I grabbed her. I said, get your bathing suit. We went out to Hammonasset. I had these two long boards, and I had a big board and a little board. I gave her the little board because she's lighter. So she was first all over the place. And they got, Kelly, just use your feet, put your hands here. And next thing you know, she was like, okay. Now lie down, find your balance point, paddle. And once she mastered that, she was okay. And I go, now I'll let you try the big board. She had the big board's like a boat, and she's lighter. And she was like happier than ever. She was so happy. She was a little frustrated earlier because she wasn't accomplishing anything. She felt like kind of trapped. She went back. She got more done the rest of the day than she imagined because she had a chance to be childlike again.
Thank you for that concrete example of just how we all can just, that moment, and say, take a breath.
The pain is not anything more than you're not part of you is dying, and I don't want to get too spiritual here, but you must die before you're born again principle is going on, and that die it's just an old way is dying, but how could a new way begin if an old way doesn't end? And so if you have faith that process is really just happening, you're more likely to open up. Like I said, what do you see? The hand. Well, you get stuck in a problem. Take a walk. Do something different. If you're driving downtown, go the long way. Try something different. And when you start breaking all these patterns, you begin to open yourself up differently. And
Such a beautiful summary of what we've just been talking about. And let me stretch that word faith you just brought up. Faith, and what else would go with faith in that process, so that you have the faith that I would say trust.
Faith to trust that something will come through.
Yeah.
And you're more likely to recognize things because if you're stuck on this. You're stuck on this. You don't see anything else. But have faith. And go for a walk. Break out of that little loop, like you said.
That is so liberating, even for the breath. You're saying that my breathing is easier, honestly. So what's the fourth leg of the stool for you? For me, it's, okay, we're in a transition. We're going to have to face transformations, even if it's kicking and screaming. We all are into it. You're wearing a mask here. I am. All this world, as we said, turned upside down. Our habits have been shaken to the core. Here we sit. Okay.
Watch a little less TV.
Less TV.
Listen to the birds a little more.
Listen to the birds. Boy, I'll say amen to that.
Listen to yourself.
Listen to yourself. That voice, that
But if you're so caught up in this, you cannot hear it.
Or the creativity in your mind.
When you begin to wake up,
yeah.
And waking up to me is becoming aware. Meditation lets you know the difference. It snaps you out of it for a moment. Mindfulness is being able to snap into that state anytime you want when it's necessary. Like you're driving down the road, enjoy the ride, but all of a sudden something, ding, 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 alert, be aware. Because that'll save you. Because once it gets in your head, some sort of reaction from the outside, you lose your connection.
And how about practice? Practice patience.
That's why
in the traffic.
Well, exactly. You begin to
beep?
Everything changes. You be aware.
You're aware.
You're in the supermarket lines. And you see the impatience a mother has with the child, but then you see the child in the car. He's just connected.
Yeah.
Have you ever thought about when you see a little baby? Or a little squirrel, or a little chipmunk.
Yeah.
And you go, "Aw."
Yeah.
You know that "aw" thing?
The chipmunk, especially,
When you go "aw," it's really, you're seeing its connection to our Creator. And it reminds you of that which you have in yourself, but you kind of went dormant. So you go "aw" because it's your connection.
Yeah.
It reminds you of it.
And that's the difference between my cat and me. The cat is going,
living in the awe.
I want to get the jaw into this little downstairs every day.
Every day.
But the cat's there, and I trained him to stay on the porch. But I'm aware of the bird and the little chipmunk. So, mindfulness. what the last leg of the four-legged stool is, we have 5 minutes,
Okay.
is, we're all in this transition. You've given us great suggestions to time out. Oh my. Yes, let me practice patience in traffic this morning. I'm not going to blow the horn. Oh no, this is really relaxing. I can wait because I just noticed, oh my, I just noticed that on my left, which I'd never seen before. On the same street I've been on a million times.
Or that bird you saw this morning that's always there, you didn't notice it.
Oh my God.
You didn't experience it.
Transitions, transformation, that's the inward understanding and awareness. Transcendence. What is transcendence? The book that you have given me as a special gift is all about transcendence. It's getting to that level of beyond awareness into the love of the universe, the magic of the moment, being in it, the paddling with your wife on the ocean. That's transcendence, and you described it so well today, orally, but also in the book. And for me, given my idiosyncratic history and personal psychology, is trust. I had to learn that over and over and over, because we all know a four-legged stool is more stable than the three-legged stool that I've been sitting on my whole life. Oops.
You have two lives, the one you lived and the one you have ahead of you.
Well, that's a good one. Yeah. The rest of your life begins with this moment. And looking back at Lao Tzu, who you quote in your book, and the next show we do together, Bruce, I'm going to get into this part 4.
Okay.
And really, really revel in it, but also resonate, because it was like every sentence, I'm going to read this again and again and again. And, you know, that's the
I
kind
did
of
say
help.
sometimes you may want to reread some stuff and let it soak in. Because it's...
You did say.
Yeah.
So, 2 minutes, last wrap up, emotional grounding. How are you feeling?
I feel great.
Me too.
I feel great.
I feel relaxed.
Life to me is a constant unfolding. And I've never really had a job. I have a lot of little businesses. And that's another story we could talk about another time.
We will next time.
But I run my life by lists, and I always focus on what's most important. And I don't worry about it. I always write my list, and then I just enjoy whatever I'm doing. And then I don't have to worry about what I have to do because I wrote it down already.
They get done?
I wrote it down.
They get done?
And it gets done. And then sometimes, the list may seem too long.
Yeah.
So I'm just telling you this so people may write your list.
Yeah.
Write it down, and then forget about it. And then number which ones are most important, 1, 2, 3, 4, and simply follow one thing at a time. It helps you stay more focused. By the way, if anyone wants a copy, my book is on Amazon. Thinking Beyond Habitual Thinking, yes. And
Thinking Beyond Habitual Thinking.
Yeah. So
I needed this 20 years ago.
well,
And then I needed it 40 years ago. So let's go back to that lake in New Hampshire for a moment.
the lake in New Hampshire.
Yeah, weren't you up there alone?
Yeah, it was on the sound, and I wrote the poem, and I'll recite the second half of it if we have time.
Yeah, we do. Second half.
I'll just second half.
Love.
The challenge to deception, to bring forth in another that which lack of love could never have known, to awaken to deception, and how love, hate, and anger was the deceiver's food. To awaken
The deceiver's food.
The deceiver's food. And the deceiver is that's within yourself. The
Yes.
illusions that we accept as real.
The illusions we accept as real.
And you have to let that die before you can be born again to yourself.
Born again,
To yourself.
the nugget.
To your connection.
To yourself.
You want to reconnect to who you are and be a source of love, ideally. And that's not the poem, I'm just telling you words
You
now.
have, I love the music too, to your words. See, poetry really has musicality, if it's really good. Rumi, Shakespeare, Chaucer. Thank you for being a poet today. And a guest poet.
How is it not to be a poet when I'm with a poet?
Wow. That was great, Bruce.
It was great
That's
fun.
a transitional
I look forward to
show.
chat more about things. Maybe if people want to give you feedback, what's important to them, we can chat about that.
Please do.
Yeah.
I will feedback to you. It's a wrap. Thank you. It's a great return show. Oh, man, this was great. After 5 months of silence.
Wow.
Thank you all.
Yeah, hey, thanks. Hope I said some good things that make sense to people.
Oh, my gosh. That was the most uplifting show we've ever done.
Yeah.
Oh.